Lights, camera, reaction, take one.
Hello, Clarice. Welcome to Lights, Camera, Reaction. I'm Grace.
I'm Sidney.
I'm Ruby.
I'm Rachel.
And today we'll be reacting to Silence of the Lambs. I mean, I thought it was a really interesting movie. It was very...
It was captivating. It was very psychological and mysterious because at first I thought it was going to be more about like Hannibal and like his background and all of that. And that's kind of how like it's introduced. But then it's something else. It's all about Buffalo Bill and him trying to help, well, kind of trying to help the case of Buffalo Bill.
He helped, but he was trying to make it like a story for her to figure out.
Yeah, which was really cool because he kind of like played a game with her, a psychological game, which was really nice.
I liked it because it was like y'all said, it was mysterious and really psychological, and I think the acting was pretty good too, so.
It's really good acting. I thought it had a lot of very feminist elements, which I liked. I don't know if I'm being like, ooh, feminist right now, but
You should be.
it was very much like a sort of look into like Clarice's experience is in a man's real profession. And you get a lot of scenes like the elevator scene where she's walking in an elevator with a bunch of men and they all kind of look at her for a second. And she's definitely very conscious of that and uses that to her advantage when she's dealing with the warden in the prison who did not expect for her to want to go in alone, and so he protested and she said, oh, well, at least I got to spend this lovely time with you. And so she kind of used that to her advantage, and I really liked that. So.
And also, like, you wouldn't expect her to be the one that was picked to go talk to Buffalo Bill, not only because she was a woman, but because when she was doing her, like, police duties and she was going through training, sometimes she was failing. And, like, she was, like, one of the people that messed up sometimes. And they showed those scenes. And so when they picked her to be the one to talk to Buffalo Bill, it was really cool because it was unexpected. And that's always a good thing in movies, was something that's unexpected.
How do you think that would have differed if, you know, it was a male instead in her place?
I don't think I would have liked it as much.
I think if there was a male in place, I think there wouldn't have been as much of a connection between Clarice, or between if it was a male, and Hannibal. And it would be more like, I don't think he would go like give information, and I don't think he would be as helpful as he was. And they would have a harder time convincing him and like talking to him.
So in that sense, how do you think they'll demonize Buffalo Bill and help us, you know, in a way redeem Hannibal Lecter, or vice versa?
Well, okay, so towards the end of the movie, it was talking because whenever Hannibal got out, Clarice was talking to her friends about like Hannibal wouldn't come for her because it would be considered impolite or not polite. Because they had such a, like, I don't know, like it's not like a relationship, they have like a connection versus like if the guy came down there to do everything.
I also kind of like, you end up liking Hannibal because he's considerate, he's very polite, he doesn't do things
Until he face off.
Yes, until he's provoked to do things. He doesn't like it if he's kind of given some rude behavior by another person. That's when he strikes. When he's disrespected, he strikes then. He doesn't do it for really because he can. He does it because he feels like he needs to.
And I think that kind of spurs from him being a psychiatrist.
Mm-hmm.
I think like psychologist. I think that like affected his like how he treated other people and how they like responded to it is because he had so much background knowledge on people's minds and how people act.
And speaking of backgrounds, why do you think Lecter was so interested in Clarice's past or her background?
Quid pro quo, I tell you things, you tell me.
How did that benefit?
I think it lended him a level of connection with her and control over her.
Yeah, definitely control. He thought that he could like kind of be above her in that sense, and he can like look down on her and kind of take her in as like a daughter figure and like figure out her childhood and kind of use that to get in her head and like figure out like where her mind is at, so he can see how he can benefit from the Buffalo Bill like situation, which he eventually did because he was able to escape. But also how he also wanted her to benefit from it, and she did because she became a FBI agent and got like some sort of award for it. And I think that was good for both of them.
So do you think that allowed him to kind of step into like a sort of father figure for her?
Definitely, I think definitely. Because he like got to dig into her childhood and her like real emotions, especially like memories from her past, which is something that like fathers would do. They want to know what you like are thinking and how you feel, and he wanted to help her because in the end, especially in the ending, like it was drawn throughout the entire movie, like he wanted to help her kind of get over that, like that, I guess, not fear of lambs,
Because he said have the lamb stop screaming.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know the word I would use.
Just her sort of trauma, maybe.
Yeah, he wanted
Trauma
to kind
about
of
the
like
lamb.
help her talk it out instead of just keeping it bottled up. And he knows, like, I think we all know that helps when you talk about it and you don't just keep it bottled up.
I also think it was like a way to hold her interest, to keep her invested in him.
I see that too.
Like, sort of, if he's kind of processing her past, then she has to stay invested in that. I'm not sure if I'm explaining this very well,
No, I
but
get it.
I think it was a way for him to keep her invested in talking with him, in the case in general.
Yeah, because he is like, he thinks that the case will kind of help her recover from that trauma of what happened in her childhood. I feel
No, he
like-
didn't think that, remember, because he was like, do you think if you solve this case it'll stop the lambs from screaming? And she goes, I don't know. So he didn't think that it would, but she did.
Oh, because I thought that he did think that.
I mean, he could have.
in
He
his
could have been like.
actions.
He could have been just saying that, like.
So like to
"Do you
get her to
think-"
say it.
Interesting.
Let's talk about the close-ups. The close-ups of Hannibal Lecter, and then at first, it's just him, and then in the end, it becomes Clarice as well. How does that become significant in the film?
I think, at least in the beginning, those close-ups are meant to really bring you into Hannibal Lecter. Like, you can't look at anything else but his face. It's very uncomfortable for the first part of the movie because he's just this really creepy, kind of expressionless, emotionless kind of man, and he's eaten people. He's like killed people and eaten them. So it's a very uncomfortable feeling, and I think as the movie goes on, that's kind of the trademark of his scenes, is those close-ups on his face. And as the movie goes on, Clarice also gets those close-ups, which kind of shows you how she's slowly getting like pulled into his mindset or mentality, or even just like his...
She's becoming more significant to his life and his way of like.
I was gonna say, because when she first walked down there, she seemed pretty nervous. Obviously, this is her first case, and she was already in training. And then he was holding himself, obviously, because he's like been there and he's a killer, so he's very like confident. Versus her, she came in, and as they started talking, she got more and more confident. That's why the scenes kind of switched over to more of like her and him, not just like more.
See, I think that those the slowly kind of getting more into close-ups of her face was kind of a way of showing that she, again, was more confident with him, more comfortable with tapping into that sort of mentality that he has.
Like, yeah, that was what I was gonna say, is their relationship got stronger, and that's why like she got the close-ups, was because their relationship was more connected and she got more comfortable. That was definitely.
Let's talk about Buffalo Bill.
Oof. He is something.
He's
How's
kind
the
of
whole relationship
introduced. He's introduced as a mystery, but then it shows scenes of him, and he's very odd. He's not a typical. I mean, what serial killer is a typical person? But
He's atypical even for a serial killer.
Yeah, he had a whole describing that he hated himself
And so he tried to become a woman and then got rejected.
by skinning his victims and making a bodysuit.
Well, even before that, he applied for sex change surgery, so
Yeah.
maybe as a she instead of a he, but I don't know. But he's just that sort of creepy factor where like,
I mean, so when they were holding Catherine, I don't remember.
yeah, I think it was Catherine.
And he was in the cell, and she was saying like, I want to see my mom. He looked a little bit emotional, if that makes sense. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of emotion, but like he was kind of like tearing up and like telling like, hurry up, because she wanted to see your mom. He probably has some like history, I guess. I don't know, I'm just assuming.
And he was definitely trying to distance himself from Catherine, I think from all of his victims, by talking to her in the third person and calling her an it. Like, it drinks the water that was thrown down the well.
Like, she has no value.
It rubs the lotion on her skin.
It rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
Instead of saying, you need to rub the lotion on your skin, it did it in the third person and as an it instead of a she or a you.
Yeah. Which you find very common in a lot of serial killers.
So definitely not
He does-
apathetic.
He does not have any like respect towards women. I don't think because most of all of his victims were women.
Yeah.
But if he wanted, he was going to get the sex change to be a woman, correct?
Yes.
So maybe he was jealous of the women, and that's why he gave them no value.
Hannibal, no, because Hannibal described it as that he hated himself and he would do anything for anyone else.
Yes. I also think that it showed that he wasn't just an apathic killer. He had emotions. He had it also, in that scene where he was telling her to rub lotion on her skin, it was kind of this desperate, as you said, he got really desperate for her to do that. He got really upset. And I think that shows a lot of self-hatred in him.
When I first saw that, I was so confused. Like, why are you putting lotion on it?
So
He can.
How does that compare to the way he feels about his dog?
he loves his
He
dog.
loves
That's
his
the only good
dog.
part about Buffalo Bill is Precious.
I was so scared when she took the dog. I was like, please don't hurt the dog.
I thought the dog was gonna get hurt.
Yeah, I was so
The dog is
scared.
gonna die. It's that kind of movie.
Like, why do you think he likes the animal more than like people?
Because animals can't
Because it
talk.
gives him attention.
Because animals
They
can't
can't. They really can't.
I think it's because the dog gave him attention and affection. and was seeking-
affirmation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the dog was
Have
just
that.
too stupid to understand what he was doing.
Yeah.
I mean, dogs wouldn't see anything wrong with like skinning a person. They're dogs. Unless it was like their person, and then they would be
My
like, "Why are you
dogs-
doing that to my person?" But
My dogs like can see, like they can feel pain. Like when I'm
Yeah.
in pain, my dogs can like they know and like they react. So I think that they would. His dog.
well, they were doing that to like a dead. He would kill the women before.
But if he killed them in front of the dog,
That's true.
which we never saw, so we don't know if he did. But if he did, I feel like the dog would have some sort of resent towards him. So maybe he didn't do it in front of his dog.
Well, I think because everybody else hates him, but his dog. Like, that's his dog. And dogs are very, very loyal to whoever their owner is. And that makes the dog kind of like, the only person that doesn't hate him is the
his
dog.
dog.
And that's like companionship.
I also thought the dog was like a very kind of
was an ugly
classically feminine dog, like, you know, like poodles are normally,
Ugly.
or Maltese. Like a Maltese or a poodle, like you'd imagine the owner of a Maltese and there'd be like this really,
Basic white girl.
yes, basic white girl.
have a
Or like a
Maltese.
really like 90s like mean girl, sort of
Six.
like very feminine. And I think that definitely might have been the thing about the dog, because it was, and he like put bows on the dog and call her Precious, and that's a very feminine name.
Yeah.
So I think that might have been part of why he had the dog.
Yeah, and
was-
Catherine knew that. That's why she took the dog.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
loved his
she
dog.
used that to her advantage.
Do you think that maybe the attention he gave his dog was the attention that he so much craved?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Oh yes. That's very evident.
The ending scene where Clarice was at the house, I guess I was very confused on the ending scene when like the other people went to the wrong house.
think
Did she tell them the wrong house so she could catch Buffalo?
I think so. I think that's what it
not
was.
happened.
Oh.
Because she went to the right house, and then there was like that scene where like all the lights shut off, and he had like the night vision goggles, was like walking very, very close behind her. That was so, yeah. And That was very...
I don't think she did it on purpose because she didn't realize
Until she was at that
until
house.
she
Yeah.
was at the house
And
and
she
she,
saw, like,
actually
the
saw the
cutouts.
man.
Yeah.
And she saw like signs that he like could potentially be Buffalo Bill. That's when she kind of like got on guard and was like, this is him. Like she had a feeling or something. So I don't think she knew until she saw him.
Yeah, because she didn't know, because she walked in the house to ask questions thinking it was someone else, and then she went
Yeah.
upstairs and there was a dress that had like the taped cutouts of right where the other victim's back was cut out. And then she was like,
Yeah.
there's a cut-blooded killer right here. Cold-blooded.
Yeah, because she thought it was gonna be that woman, the woman that was that died, but she didn't know.
So she was asking questions to them.
Yeah, because she thought the woman was gonna answer the door, but she died, and then
No, because then she saw the, after that she called the person and she came downstairs with those moths, which is what was launched in the person's throat. And he killed, and they were like not like, oh, they were like raised there. They were like, from like a different country or something like that, so like they raised them and then
he used them as like his like.
this was me.
symbol.
He had like a lot
That
of
was
symbols.
also very, I think that was in the movie poster, was that moth on the Silence of the Lambs, the moth. I thought that was a really cool little detail, the moth with like the symbol of like transformation, which he so desperately craves.
Oh yeah, because moths turn into
Yeah.
what
From caterpillar to
moth
The
to
larva thing,
butterfly.
yeah, to the mark.
And then like butterflies are supposed to be this. Butterflies are supposed to be this beautiful thing, and he was trying to turn into
He
something that
ruined
people-
butterflies.
It's a moth.
He's trying to turn into something beautiful, what his idea of beauty, and trying to get attention from others. And butterflies capture our attention, and they're beautiful creatures. And
I think they're kind
mystical.
of ugly. Like, if you
Well,
look at them up
that's
close. If you look at them up close.
Love
So how
moths.
is the ending scene significant in this film?
It really
So-
sets it up for like a. Oh, sorry.
It's the, yeah, let's set it up.
It sets it up for another movie,
like a
definitely.
cliffhanger in a way, because Hannibal,
He's free.
and he called Clarice and said, you know, and then the
I'm
very
having
ending
a-
scene, like he was just walking freely in the streets, saying that he had like meet up with someone.
He's gonna have an old friend for dinner
Yeah.
in a week.
Yeah,
Which
he escaped. He escaped prison, and he,
By eating them.
by
And then cutting off their face and then wearing that face instead.
Yeah, that
it
was- that was a wild
That was a
ride.
really
That
good
was-
scene. He's very smart.
Yeah.
He's very smart.
you have to be strong because like he hung up that one guy
Yeah,
like Jesus, like
he might have used a rope.
probably.
Yeah, no, it wasn't he hanging from the neck.
I'm not sure. I don't think he was hanging from because his arms were out.
Oh, it looked like an angel to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I think that was a symbol too. A symbol for like, I don't know.
Because like you think of angels, you think like, oh, it's so pretty, but it's like it's dead and his face is like,
Yeah,
Cut off.
like revenge, kind of like revenge towards all the years he's been in jail. Like, I finally get my statement, and this is my statement.
So individually, what was your favorite scene in the movie?
I really liked like all the interactions between Clarice and Lecter. I don't really know why. I just thought they were very. All I can really think of the word is interesting. Very much. I guess it's a sort of symbiotic relationship between them. Like he is getting to like flex his mind on her. He exercises brain because he's been stuck in a cell with nothing to do for however long, and she is getting information from him about this case. And so it's a very interesting relationship because he's obviously committed these atrocities, but she is kind of slowly learning to almost understand him. And so they have this kind of mutual understanding, which is very interesting to see develop. Courtesy. They have this courtesy for each other.
that I don't think anybody else saw in Hannibal.
Which is, yeah, definitely, which is why he wouldn't come after her. And she knows that because he's courteous. He's a courteous killer. Like, he's not gonna come after somebody who's shown him courtesy.
This is basic, but I like the scene when she caught Buffalo Bill. Like, I don't know, I just liked how she did it like all on her own at the same time, you know. And
Do you think that ultimately presents her as a hero? Kind of female
Yeah.
hero that a lot of films don't actually have.
Especially at that time. It was very like, yeah moment.
My favorite scene was when Hannibal was able to escape, and how it was so like unexpected, and the way he escaped was very smart, and there were so many details. There were so many details into it that like drew you into the story even more.
And like 20 minutes before that, he like was staring at the pin, like he was like masked up, like he couldn't like.
Yeah.
And he was staring at the pin, and he like somehow got the pin, took off like the little like thing that's like on it, to then when he got dinner and was handcuffed to the wall, get himself out of it and then eat his face.
I saw the pin as foreshadowing that he was gonna escape. Like I saw that before, and I didn't expect him to survive, because when they saw like the dead bodies and all that, I was like, I don't think he survived, and then he did, which was very like amazing, and he lasted, which was really cool to me.
Oh wait, can I just think of? I'd say when Hannibal was talking to Clarice about like her childhood, because that showed a very important part of the movie, how like the relationship that they had. And for a serial killer, she was very open with him, like talking about it, but he also was like, I don't want to use that to his advantage, but like that was a way of him helping her to try to find Buffalo Bill, if that makes sense. So
So how do you guys want to wrap this up?
I'm terrible at conclusions.
Okay, bye.
So there was an overall metaphor, would you call it a metaphor, when like her and the story with the lambs and her childhood, and at the very end, would you call it a metaphor?
I feel like that's like a
It's more
rite
of
of
a
passage almost.
Yeah, that's a better way to describe it. So there was a rite of passage at the end of the story, and like through the beginning, she talked about her childhood story, or like something that was very like powerful in her childhood, where she saw lambs about to be slaughtered, and she opened the gate, and she was only able to get one because the rest were so confined to this space, and they were so like used to it that they didn't know anything else. So when she opened the gate, they didn't know that they were able to escape. But she took one of the lambs with her, and she was like, if I can at least get one of these lambs, that's an impact. At least I can do something. And then at the very end, Hannibal asks her, did the lambs stop screaming? Because when she had that memory, the lambs were being slaughtered, and she watched that, and the lambs were screaming. And so that carried throughout her life, and Hannibal was kind of using that to help her like express her raw emotion and to kind of like crack her shell.
Expose her.
I love the
Expose her.
title too, because it's not like how the lamb stopped screaming, it's like these silence.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I think
That was really cool.
I think maybe that's also a metaphor for just, if she can save that one lamb, if she can save this one girl, then maybe they'll stop screaming.
yeah.
So like maybe if she can stop this one criminal and save
Yeah,
that one
that's what I
lamb,
was
that one girl, then
And it's
the
all
lambs
over
might stop
with.
screaming.
Yeah.
If she can just save
It's all
one.
over with. It's all closed. And yeah, that was an amazing ending. The way it ended it all, like it drew the title and it drew everything, and it made just
It was a very satisfying ending.
Yeah.
Like even though it was open, it was very like fulfilling.
And yeah, that's our
That's our show.
That's our
Lights, camera, reaction.
favorite reaction. Thank you for watching.